Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much. What if your silence wasn't weakness, but proof of your greatest strength? What if every battle you didn't fight was actually a step closer to your breakthrough? And what if the most powerful voice in a room was the one that said nothing at all? Let me tell you something, it took me years to truly understand this. Silence is not the absence of strength. It's the evidence of it. In a world that constantly celebrates noise, applause, and attention, the one who chooses silence is often the one who's already conquered half the battle. We're conditioned to believe that louder means stronger, that being seen means being successful. But here's the truth. You don't have to raise your voice to prove your point. You don't need to engage in every debate or respond to every critic to walk in your authority. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to say nothing and keep moving forward. There's a deep, unshakable quiet that comes when your confidence is no longer rooted in public validation. When you truly know who you are, you stop needing to be seen. You stop needing to explain yourself. You no longer crave applause or feel the urge to defend your every step. You're not staying silent because you're afraid or because you lack the words. You're staying silent because your focus has become too valuable to waste on meaningless distractions. And let's be honest, not every battle is worth your energy. Not every comment deserves your attention. Some arguments are nothing more than carefully crafted distractions, designed to pull you away from your assignment. I used to think silence meant weakness, that if I didn't correct every lie, clarify every detail, and prove every point, I was surrendering my power. But the truth? It takes far more strength to hold your peace than to fight every fool that demands your attention. The strongest people don't need to shout. Their life speaks for them. Their consistency, their peace, their progress, that becomes their loudest message. Because silence isn't passive. It's not avoidance. It's a posture of trust, a declaration that says, God, I trust you to vindicate me. I trust you to handle what I cannot, and He will. Maybe, just maybe, the reason the door hasn't opened yet, or the breakthrough seems delayed, isn't because you've been silent, but because you're still fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when you finally release control and allow God to fight the battles you were never meant to carry. In the last section, we learned that silence isn't weakness, it's strategic. It's surrender with strength. And now, we shift to what it really looks like to trust God when you're tempted to speak, defend, or control the narrative. You're still trying to control outcomes with your words when what you truly need is surrender. You're exhausting yourself trying to explain, correct, prove. But what if silence is the surrender God is waiting for? God doesn't need your defense. He's not looking for another explanation. He's looking for your faith. When Jesus stood before His accusers, He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He didn't justify Himself. He stood in silence. Why? Because He knew that truth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. That kind of silence wasn't weakness. It was power, disciplined and focused. It was the posture of someone who knew that heaven had the final word. And in your life, there will be moments when you're misjudged, misunderstood, even underestimated. People may twist your words, question your heart, or ignore your worth. Let them. Your silence in those moments doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're anchored. It means you're not easily shaken. Because here's the truth. The loudest voices are often coming from the emptiest places. People desperate for validation, recognition, or relevance. But when you're grounded in purpose, you stop chasing applause. You stop needing to be seen. Instead, you let your consistency speak for you. You let your results make the noise. A tree never explains how tall it's growing. It just keeps growing, quietly, faithfully, and one day, The same people who dismiss the seed will have no choice but to notice the fruit. Choosing silence isn't about avoiding hard conversations or escaping opposition. It's about mastering your spirit. It's about guarding your peace. You have to reach a point where someone else's bad attitude doesn't ruin your day, where a stranger's opinion doesn't disrupt your momentum, where offense doesn't pull you into fights that only cost you focus. Because listen closely, when the enemy can't destroy you, he'll distract you. He'll use offense. He'll use confusion. He'll stir up meaningless debates. Anything to knock you off center and out of alignment. But when you remain silent, when you protect your peace, when you refuse to play into the noise, you win every time. And in the next part, we'll dive deeper into how this discipline of silence keeps you aligned with purpose, and how God uses that stillness to elevate you in ways noise never could. In the last section, we talked about mastering your peace, refusing to be pulled into distractions or noise. Now we turn inward to the quiet work God does behind the scenes in the stillness where growth begins. Don't waste your energy trying to prove something that God has already spoken over your life. If He has declared it, no one else's opinion can override it. Let people think what they want. Let them talk. Let them assume. That's not your assignment. Your job? Keep building. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work, even in silence, even when no one notices. Because there will come a day when your results will speak louder than your explanations ever could. Your breakthrough will speak for itself. Stay grounded. Stay focused. Stay silent. And just watch what God does. Because there's a kind of growth that only happens when everything around you is quiet. Not in the spotlight, not on the stage, but in the hidden places away from the pressure, the applause, the expectations, where the noise dies down and God begins to do the deep work within you. The world constantly tells us that to matter, we must be seen, that to have influence, we must be heard. But some of the most meaningful transformation God will ever do in your life happens in complete silence, away from the crowds, far from the performance. And you know what? Some of the most powerful seasons you'll ever walk through will feel lonely. Not because you've been forgotten, but because you're being set apart. That separation isn't rejection, it's preparation. God often pulls people into isolation before He elevates them. He removes the noise, the distractions, the validation. Not to punish you, but to process you. He wants you to learn who you are without the affirmation, to become whole without needing a crowd to clap for you. Real growth requires stillness. It demands discipline. And yes, sometimes it requires you to walk alone. Think about the seed. Before it ever grows upward, it must be buried. Before it ever breaks through the surface, it has to break open in the dark. No one celebrates that moment. No one throws a party when the seed is hidden in the soil. But that breaking is essential. That darkness is divine, because that's where roots are formed. That's where strength is built. That's where transformation begins. So if you feel like you're in a season of isolation, buried, hidden, unseen, don't mistake it for abandonment. It might just be divine development. God isn't forgetting you. He's preparing you. He's anchoring your roots before He lets you bloom. In the next part, we'll explore what to do while you're buried, and how to trust that the hidden season is part of the plan, not the end of it. In the last section, we explored how God often develops us in hidden places, buried like a seed, not to punish us, but to prepare us. Now, let's talk about what happens when others can't see that process, and why that's okay. People may not understand what you're doing in this season. They might say you've changed. They may assume you're becoming distant, cold, or detached. Let them think what they want. You're not here to explain your process. You're here to protect it. When you're building something real within yourself, something sacred, personal, and lasting, you don't have the time or energy to be everywhere, please everyone, or explain everything. Growth demands boundaries. Purpose requires focus. You're not available for distractions anymore. You're not showing up to every conversation, every drama, every expectation. Because when you're truly committed to your calling, you have to be willing to embrace the quiet seasons. Those stretches of time where it feels like nothing is happening, where your prayers seem to echo back in silence. But hear me, those are often the moments when God is doing his deepest work. He's pruning your heart. He's healing old wounds. He's tearing down false identities and building up your character. It's not glamorous. It's not public, but it's holy. You may not see the changes right away, but you'll feel them in time. You'll feel it when you walk into rooms with quiet confidence. You'll feel it when you stop needing applause to feel valuable. You'll feel it when you no longer chase love from places that used to leave you empty. That is the fruit of private growth. That is the power of silence. And listen, not everyone is meant to walk with you in this next chapter. Some people were only assigned to your past, not your future. And the longer you try to drag them into spaces they were never meant to occupy, the more delayed your destiny becomes. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call your focus arrogance, your boundaries selfishness. You don't owe anyone your process. What you do owe is obedience, to follow where God is leading you, even if that path gets quiet, even if it gets lonely, because growth isn't comfortable. It will stretch you. It will humble you. It will bring your weaknesses to the surface. But don't run from it. Don't numb it. Lean into it. Because God is not interested in making you popular. He's interested in making you powerful. And real power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. It walks quietly, but carries weight. In the next part, we'll unpack what real power looks like and how learning to walk in it silently and steadily is the key to lasting transformation. In the last part, we uncovered that true power doesn't demand attention. It moves in silence, shaped in private. Now, let's talk about what to do when you find yourself in that quiet, in-between season and how to handle it with wisdom. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't perform. It simply moves in purpose, speaks with wisdom, and walks in peace. So when you find yourself in a quiet season, where doors aren't opening fast, where recognition feels far away, where things feel still, don't rush to escape it. Don't scramble for visibility or chase after noise. Learn to sit in that stillness. Learn to listen in that space. Learn to become, not for an audience, not for applause, but for purpose. Because what God is doing in you during those silent, hidden moments is far greater than anything the world could ever offer you from spotlight. You're being shaped. You're being sharpened. You're being made ready, not for people, but for purpose. Stay in the process. Stay in the silence. That's where the power is. And here's one of the hardest, but most necessary lessons you'll ever learn. Not everyone deserves access to your journey. Not everyone is meant to sit at your table, hear your plans, or walk beside you. And that's not arrogance. That's wisdom. That's protection. You cannot build a life of peace if you keep handing out keys to people who only bring chaos. You can't walk in purpose if you constantly open your soul to those who were never called to carry it. Your purpose is sacred. It must be guarded as sacred. Because the wrong people in the right spaces will always lead to the wrong outcomes. It doesn't matter how close they've been in the past. Some people are only familiar with you, but not assigned to you. And you need to know the difference. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to announce every decision you make or broadcast your every step. Some of the most powerful moments of your life will happen in silence, between you and God. And the most dangerous thing you can do, share something sacred with someone who's not spiritually mature enough to understand it. Just because someone is close doesn't mean they're called. Just because someone was part of your story doesn't mean they belong in your next chapter. We live in a culture where everyone wants to post it, prove it, and publicize it. But sometimes, your next move should stay between you and God. Keep it private. Protect it. You don't have to prove to the world that you're growing. Let your growth speak for itself when the time is right. In the next section, we'll talk about what it means to walk boldly in your calling, even while staying silent, and how God promotes what's been faithfully hidden. In the last section, we explore the importance of protecting your process, keeping your growth private and sacred. Now, we turn to the quiet confidence that comes from alignment and the wisdom to know who truly belongs in your next season. Growth doesn't have to be announced. It will show itself in time. You don't need constant applause when you're walking in alignment. You don't need external permission when your steps are directed by purpose. Let your life do the speaking. Let your integrity speak for you. Let your peace speak louder than your words. Let your fruit be your evidence. So the greatest setbacks don't come from enemies. They come from misplaced trust, from allowing the wrong voices access to your heart, your vision, your sacred space. And before you even realize it, they begin planting seeds of doubt, confusion, and hesitation. That's why you must be selective. Not cold, not bitter, just wise. There's a big difference between having a good heart and giving it away carelessly to people who were never meant to carry it. Some people were only meant to pass through your life, but you gave them a permanent place. You opened doors they never earned access to, and now you're wondering why peace is leaking from rooms they were never called to enter. It's time to release what no longer honors your growth. It's time to evict the voices, habits, and patterns that were only meant for a previous version of you. There's a weight that comes with calling. There's a responsibility on your life that can't be shared with just anybody. If they don't carry the oil, they can't carry the weight. If they don't understand the cost, they'll never fully respect the blessing. So stop expecting support from people who were never designed to support you. It's not that they're wrong or evil. They're just not built for your path, and that's okay. Release them. Let them go in peace. Because before God takes you higher, He'll often strip your circle smaller. Elevation requires separation. And sometimes the silence you're feeling right now, it's not loneliness, it's clarity. It's God clearing the room so you can hear Him without interference. You can't hear His whisper clearly when you're constantly surrounded by noise. You can't grow into your fullness when you're always explaining, defending, performing. There's power in stillness. There's strength in quiet movement. There's peace in trusting that what's truly for you doesn't need a crowd to validate it. So yes, it's okay to move differently. It's okay to become distant from what used to fit. It's okay to outgrow people, places, and conversations. Because that's what real growth does. It doesn't just elevate you. It refines your circle, your habits, your boundaries. In the next part, we'll discover how to embrace that refinement and how walking in quiet, focused obedience leads you straight into the purpose God prepared for you all along. In the last section, we talked about how elevation often requires separation, how not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Now, let's take a closer look at what that separation really means and why it's not rejection, it's refinement. Separation happens not because you think you're better, but because you're becoming someone different. You've changed, you've grown, you've matured, you've learned how to value your time, your energy, your peace, and now you no longer hand those things out carelessly. You don't invite just anyone into sacred spaces anymore. And that's not arrogance. That's stewardship. That's wisdom. That's knowing that the more God entrusts you with, the more He expects you to protect. So let them say you've changed. Let them say you've gone quiet. Let them call you distant. What they don't see are the prayers whispered in the dark, the battles fought in silence, the weight you carry when no one else is looking. They don't know about the calling that wakes you up at 3 a.m. They don't see the inner stretching, the refining, the surrender. You're not being rude. You're being responsible. You're not ignoring people. You're ignoring distraction. There comes a moment when you realize that protecting your peace matters more than constantly being understood. And sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. No explanación. No defense. No announcement. Just walk. Just grow. Just focus. Because the people who are truly for you won't need constant access to prove their support. They'll respect your silence. They'll honor your process. And if they're meant to be in your next chapter, they'll meet you there. No explanation required. You don't need the crowd to clap for you. What you need is the courage to keep going even when it's quiet, even when it's misunderstood, even when it's lonely. And here's the shift that happens when you truly begin to focus on yourself. You discover that peace is not something you chase, it's something you create. We've been taught to run after peace in things outside of us. Relationships, achievements, validation, titles. We think, if I could just fix what's out there, then I'll finally feel calm in here. But here's the truth. Peace doesn't come from anything external. It's not hiding in the next promotion, the next relationship, or the next moment of approval. In the next part, we'll uncover where true peace really begins, and how learning to cultivate it within can change not just your atmosphere, but your entire life. In the previous section, we uncovered a powerful truth. Peace isn't something you chase, it's something you create from within. Now, let's explore what that looks like in everyday life and how shifting your focus inward can change everything. Peace begins the moment you stop depending on people, situations, or outcomes to give it to you. It begins when you no longer look outward for what can only be found inward. When you stop watching everyone else's life and start working on your own, everything starts to shift. There's a clarity that comes when comparison ends. When you stop measuring your journey against someone else's timeline, you step into a freedom you may not have realized you were missing. You stop living under the pressure of someone else's expectations. You no longer carry the weight of needing to impress or prove. Instead, you start living in alignment with your purpose, not theirs. And that's a beautiful thing, to realize you don't need anyone's permission to have peace. You don't have to meet their standards. You only need to walk in obedience to God's calling for your life. And that, in itself, is more than enough. The moment you decide to focus on yourself, to truly turn your energy inward, you'll be shocked at how much mental space you've been wasting, worrying about other people's opinions, comparing your pace to theirs, measuring your worth by their accomplishments. It's easy to get pulled into that cycle, especially in a world that glorifies competition and rewards comparison. But when your focus shifts to your own growth, your own purpose, your own journey, you become so deeply engaged with what's inside of you that you no longer have the energy to obsess over what's outside of you. You begin to see that what they're doing, what they're saying, what they're achieving, none of it defines you. Your peace isn't rooted in their approval or your proximity to their progress. Your peace is rooted in the fact that you're doing what you're called to do. And there is deep, unshakable strength in that realization. Because when you learn to cultivate peace within yourself, real peace, it becomes untouchable. People can't steal it. Disappointment can't shake it. Loss, rejection, criticism, none of it can dismantle something that wasn't built on the surface to begin with. Life will come at you. Storms will rise. But if your peace was born in stillness, nurtured in silence, and rooted in truth, it won't fall when the winds blow. In the final part, we'll talk about what it means to carry that kind of peace forward into every room, every decision, and every challenge, and how to live from that place of quiet, powerful strength. In the previous section, we discovered that real peace is built from the inside out, not handed to us by others, not found in the noise, but formed through intention, surrender, and alignment. Now, let's explore what happens when you begin to live from that peace every single day. The storm may rage around you. Chaos might swirl on every side. But when your peace is rooted deep within, you remain steady, unmoved, unshaken. That kind of strength is rare, but it's exactly what the world needs now more than ever. It's a kind of peace that isn't tied to fleeting moments or fragile relationships. It's not dependent on the approval of others or the ease of circumstances. It's the kind of peace that comes from knowing exactly who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. It's the kind of peace that flows straight from the presence of God. And when you walk in that kind of peace, you begin to see its fruit show up everywhere in your life. Clarity, confidence, joy, resilience. You don't just survive life, you stand in it no matter what comes. But here's the beautiful part. When you cultivate this peace in yourself, it doesn't stay contained. It starts to influence everything around you. Your relationships begin to shift. Your environment changes. Even the challenges you once feared begin to lose their grip. Why? Because peace carries power. It changes the atmosphere. It silences anxiety. It disarms conflict. It makes room for truth and love to grow. When you are at peace within yourself, you stop attracting chaos. You stop tolerating toxic people and draining situations. You stop chasing things that once left you feeling empty. Instead, you begin to attract the right things. People who uplift you, opportunities that align with your purpose, and blessings that match the person you're becoming. When you truly focus on yourself and make peace your priority, your entire world begins to reflect that intention. Because the energy you invest in your inner world always echoes into your outer world. So the question is, why do we keep chasing peace from people who can't give it? Why do we keep waiting on circumstances to tell us who we are or how we should feel? It's because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth and our peace must come from something outside of us. But the moment you realize that peace is a choice and a process, everything changes. You begin to take your power back. You stop waiting on someone else to tell you you're enough. You stop depending on shifting seasons to give you joy. You decide that your peace is not circumstantial, it's internal. It's chosen, it's protected, it's sacred, and that's where your power has been all along. Thank you for watching. May you walk in peace, live with purpose, and never forget. The quietest strength is often the most powerful. Stay well, stay focused, and if this spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe for more. In the last section, we recognize that peace is built from within, and when you protect it, it changes how you live, respond, and grow. Now, let's talk about holding that peace in a world that constantly tries to pull it away. The world will always pull at you. It will demand your attention, disrupt your focus, stir your insecurities. It will try to convince you that you're falling behind, that you're not enough, that you have to do more, be more, prove more. But in the middle of all that noise, you must remember this truth. Peace is your choice. You get to decide whether you'll be swept up in the chaos or anchored in something unshakable. You get to choose if you'll live by the pressure of culture or by the promise of God. And the moment you decide that your peace is non-negotiable, everything begins to shift. No one and nothing can disturb your peace unless you hand them the permission. So focus on yourself. Stay grounded. Work on your heart, your healing, your habits. Let your peace be more than just a feeling. Let it be a reflection of your faith, your discipline, and your devotion to the journey you're on. And when you do that, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. Everything around you starts to align. Doors open, toxicity fades. The right people begin to appear, and you start living with a kind of strength that doesn't make noise, but makes impact. Because there's something undeniably powerful about being still in a world that's constantly rushing. Everyone else is running, pushing, climbing, competing. But you're learning to pause. You're learning that not all progress is visible. That growth doesn't always look like hustle. Sometimes progress looks like patience. It looks like trusting in the quiet. It looks like waiting without worry, believing without proof, and resting when the world is shouting, run faster. And in those still, uncelebrated moments, God is doing something deep within you, something sacred, something lasting. It's a work that can't be rushed. It can't be seen by the crowd. It doesn't require applause, spotlight, or validation. Because while the world tells you to move faster, push harder, and do more, God often whispers something very different. Be still and know that I am God. In the stillness, you'll find your strength. In the silence, you'll find your clarity. In the waiting, you'll find your next step. Because sometimes, the loudest thing you can do is nothing at all. Victory isn't always born in the noise, the pace, or the pressure. Sometimes, it's born in the stillness. And in our final part, we'll wrap everything together with a powerful reminder of what it truly means to walk in peace, in purpose, and in silent strength. In the previous section, we were reminded that sometimes the greatest strength is found not in doing more, but in being still. Now let's go deeper into what happens in those quiet moments of surrender. The sacred spaces where transformation begins. It's in the quiet, those unhurried, often unnoticed moments of surrender, that the real work begins. When we rush through life, constantly filling the silence with action, noise, and movement, we miss what truly matters. We miss the lessons hidden in stillness. We miss the wisdom that only reveals itself when we stop and listen. But something powerful begins to happen when you shift your focus inward. When you give yourself permission to slow down, breathe, and let go. As you embrace the silence, as you surrender control, you create space for God to move. And the more space you give Him, the more clearly He reveals what's next. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of something deeper, God's quiet hand at work in your life. It's in the letting go, in the unforced stillness, that He begins to take over in ways far beyond your plans, your timelines, or your understanding. He moves in the silence. He works in the stillness. And all the while, He's preparing you, not just for what's next, but for what's greater. The world has taught us that busyness equals progress, that movement means productivity. But some of your most profound growth will happen in seasons when no one is watching. No applause, no spotlight, no affirmation. Just God, shaping, refining, strengthening you from the inside out. And sometimes, when it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. You're not being forgotten, you're being formed. You're not being delayed, you're being developed. Because it's in the waiting that your character is forged. It's in the silence that your strength is tested and proven. God is preparing you to carry the very thing you've been praying for, but with the maturity to sustain it. And let's be honest, His ways aren't always what we expect. They don't always make sense in the moment. But if you're willing to wait, if you're willing to stay silent, if you're willing to trust, you'll begin to see how He's working all things together for your good. In the silence, you become stronger. In the stillness, you grow deeper. The world says, hustle harder. But God says, be still and know that I am God. And it's in that stillness that you rediscover your confidence, your clarity, and your peace. Because when you learn to embrace the silence, you begin to hear what the noise always drowned out. You begin to receive the answers you didn't even know you needed. In the final part, we'll close with a powerful reminder. What happens in silence doesn't stay hidden. It prepares you to rise with strength, clarity, and unstoppable purpose. In the last section, we explored how the stillness becomes a sacred space for transformation, where growth unfolds quietly and clarity begins to surface. Now, as we bring everything together, let's reflect on the power of what you begin to hear when you finally embrace the silence. When the noise fades and the world quiets, something incredible happens. You begin to hear the voice of God more clearly. You hear the desires of your own heart, the real ones, not the ones shaped by pressure or comparison. You begin to hear what truly matters. Those quiet truths that align with your purpose and draw you closer to who you were created to be. As you keep your focus inward and learn to sit with that silence, something shifts inside you. You realize your life is not defined by how loudly you move or how much you accomplish in public. It's defined by the depth of your peace, the strength of your foundation, and the anchor of your faith. And it's in that stillness that wisdom begins to speak. The more time you spend in silence, the more you begin to understand. You're not just learning about the world. You're learning about yourself, your values, your direction, your calling. You stop chasing what's temporary. You stop sprinting toward things that fade. You stop being distracted by what glitters and begin focusing on what lasts. Because the longer you stay in the quiet, the more you understand that the life you've been struggling to build through your own effort was never meant to be built alone. It was always meant to be built with God. And that kind of life, one rooted in purpose, led by peace, shaped by faith, can only be formed when you learn to rest in His presence. It's in the silence before Him that you begin to see just how vast His plans for you really are. So stop rushing the process. Stop measuring your journey by someone else's timeline. Stop scrolling through highlight reels and assuming you're behind. Focus on your lane. Focus on your healing. Focus on your calling. Let the silence be the place where God does His deepest work in you. Even when it feels like nothing is happening on the outside, know that everything is shifting on the inside. And when the time is right, when the roots have taken hold and the foundation is firm, the fruit will come, the doors will open, the world will finally see what God was doing in the quiet all along. Stay silent, stay focused, trust the process. You're being prepared for more than you can imagine. Thank you for watching. Wishing you strength, peace, and blessings on your journey. Stay well. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this.